Chap's synthetic dopamine presents the highly classified archives of the Eldritch Institution. A place that finds and contains paranormal anomalies of this world and beyond. Listener discretion is advised. Snow falls thick and heavy across the road, a veil of white swallowing everything ahead. The Wrangler's headlights stretch like fading candles in the storm. The heater hums, but the cold still creeps in through the seams of the doors. Jonas Hart sits beside me. He's younger, thin, always fidgeting with something. This time, it's a small recorder he carries like a nervous tick. His hair's a mess under a grey beanie, and his eyes are sharp, restless, always searching for logic where there isn't any. He keeps glancing at the dashboard like it's hiding answers. The sign ahead is half buried in snow. Authorized personnel only. We roll forward until the headlights strike the gate. 2 monolithic slabs of steel etched with runes rise from the mist. The frost steams off them as if the metal breathes. Agent Reyes stands waiting. Black uniform, posture perfect, breath steady in the freezing air. She doesn't move as the gates open, only gestures for us to drive through. The Eldritch Institution unfolds behind her like an underground city pretending to be human. Concrete veins run in every direction, lights flickering like pulse beats. The deeper we go, the heavier the air feels. Like gravity has opinions here. Jonas mutters that it looks like a morgue for the things the world doesn't believe in. He's not wrong. Reyes leads us through a glass-walled corridor. On the other side, men in hazmat suits push containment units on steel trolleys. Some shake violently. One emits a soft, distorted sob that sounds almost human, but isn't. Inside another cell, something presses its hand, or what looks like one, against the glass. It leaves a trail of black frost. Jonas stops walking, frozen. His reflection overlaps the thing's silhouette perfectly. I pull him along. The hum in the air deepens as we reach Containment Hall B. The lighting shifts red, emergency hue constant even when no alarm sounds. The doors ahead bear symbols scorched into metal. Reyes unlocks the final barrier with her wrist badge. The room beyond is circular, surgical and cold. The glass cube dominates its center. Inside stands the female mimic, pale as candle wax, veins dark and pulsing faintly under the surface. Limbs too long, posture too deliberate. She watches us without blinking. Reyes hands me a black field scanner, compact, matte finish, pulsing with a soft blue core. She says it connects to the institution's anomaly index, a living record of every known entity since the beginning. Jonas turns his own scanner over in his hands, fascinated, unaware it's reading him back. Next comes the brass skeleton key. Warm to the touch, etched with sigils that shimmer faintly. She explains it unlocks the containment door at the Morfett homestead. Once turned, it seals from both sides. Then the metal case, cold and dense. Inside rests a crystalline drive swirling with trapped light. It's the energy signature of the captured mimic, female. But the director believes there's another, male, stronger, adaptive. They always come in pairs. The institution's archives have recorded this behavior for decades. One lures, the other hunts. If the male reaches the facility first, containment will fail. Our mission: intercept, capture alive, return for study. No fatalities, no exceptions. Jonas stares at the mimic, uneasy. The thing tilts its head, matching his movements perfectly. Then, in the hollow echo of my own voice, it whispers my name, Mercer. The sound slides under my skin like static. The red light flickers. The mimic grins, and for a heartbeat I see myself standing on both sides of the glass. Reyes orders us out. The hum grows louder as we pass through the door again, sealing the chamber behind us. In the corridor, technicians roll another containment crate past. Inside, something thrashes against its bindings. Its shape keeps changing. A flash of teeth, a hand, then nothing. Jonas looks like he wants to run. Instead, he mutters that he'll never sleep again. I tell him that's part of the job. The elevator opens. Reyes stands rigid, arms behind her back. She says the director has approved immediate deployment. The male mimic is moving. She gives me the mission card. The words stamped in red read, File 001, the mimic, male. We step into the elevator. The doors close. Somewhere far below, metal screams like an animal in pain. The hum returns, steady and low. Jonas says nothing now. The institution has that effect. The doors open to the vehicle bay. Snow drifts in through the loading dock. Our Wrangler waits, engine already running. Reyes says the scanners are tuned to the mimic's signal. and that we'd better move fast before it does. I start the engine. The institution disappears behind us, swallowed by snow and distance. Even from miles away, I can still feel its presence. The hum never leaves. It sits somewhere behind my ribs, faint but constant, like the memory of a pulse that isn't mine. The Wrangler climbs the winding service road through the forest, tires crunching through ice. The scanners pulse in rhythm, two faint blue lights flickering in the dark. Jonas leans forward, eyes on his device, trying to hide how hard his hands shake. The thing hums like a heart that doesn't know who it belongs to. He finally asks how I caught the first mimic. I tell him I didn't. I merely observed it, stayed alive long enough for the institution to contain it. That's the truth. I never captured anything. They always arrive exactly when they're needed, as if the anomalies are the ones leading them. Jonas doesn't speak right away. The only sound is the wind clawing at the vehicle. Then he says the scanners feel wrong, like they're being watched back. He isn't wrong. The screen flickers once, a pulse of static, a blip of red. Then it's gone. I glance out the window. The trees blur past, skeletal and endless. The blizzard distorts everything into motionless ghosts. For a second, I think I see a figure keeping pace beside us, tall, thin, wrong, but it vanishes when I blink. Jonas says it's just pareidolia, the mind trying to find patterns in chaos. He's still trying to make this make sense. He doesn't yet understand. The institution doesn't study chaos. It follows it. The signal returns. A faint reading, 100 meters east, parallel movement through the tree line. The scanner vibrates in my hand. The same blue light that once felt alive now burns cold. I slow the Wrangler. The snow shifts outside. Something moves between the trees. Jonas strains his eyes but can't see it. I tell him not to look too long. These things, they notice when you notice them. The signal jumps, 70 meters, then 50, then gone. We sit in silence, both pretending not to breathe. Then, from the edge of the woods, a shape emerges. It's moving upright, but there's no rhythm to it. The limbs are too long, the gait too fluid. For an instant, the headlights catch its skin, pale, translucent, twitching like something wearing someone else's flesh. Jonas whispers a prayer he doesn't believe in. I don't look away. It stops at the tree line and tilts its head, slowly. Then it opens its mouth, but no sound comes out, only the echo of my own voice in my head. The scanner shrieks, resonance alert. The mimic knows me. It steps back into the snow, vanishing between the trunks, moving too fast, too quiet. Jonas exhales. I tell him not to. He asks what happens if it reaches the institution before we do. I tell him that's not an option. The signal disappears completely. The scanners flatline. That's when the radio crackles. The voice is distorted, full of static, but it's familiar. It says, "Mercer, bring him home." Jonas stares at me. He knows that voice. He heard it too. My voice echoing through the static. The institution said these creatures come in pairs. But what if that's wrong? What if they come in chains, one creating another, each carrying the memory of the last? I drive on, headlights dim, following the narrowing road toward the Morfett homestead. The map says we're less than 10 minutes away. Jonas reads the scanner again. The display pulses faint red now, tracking something stationary. The house. Through the snow it appears. 2 stories of rotting wood and iron reinforcement. The roof half collapsed, windows boarded. The structure leans like it's too tired to stand. Even from here, I can see claw marks across the front door, metal peeled like bark. We step out into the storm. The air stings my skin, dry and electric. The scanner hums louder the closer we get. Jonas says the institution must have known what this place was. I tell him they always do. They never send us anywhere that isn't already marked. I take the skeleton key from my pocket. The sigils glow faint green now, brighter than before, vibrating faintly. It wants to be used. Jonas steps closer, but I tell him to stay behind me. I press the key into the lock. The mechanism resists for a second, then turns smoothly. A low rumble echoes under our feet, deep and alive, not from the wind, not from the ground. The house exhales, and the door opens on its own. The smell of decay and cold air hits like a wave. Jonas asks what we do now. I tell him the institution doesn't send retrieval teams to places like this for no reason. We go in. We find it. And if we make it out alive, maybe we finally learn what they're really collecting. We step inside. The scanners pulse red. The door closes behind us, with a sound like something exhaling for the last time. The air inside the homestead is colder than the storm outside. It smells of rot, of dust and rusted iron. Our scanners hum with a low red pulse that paints the hallway in veins of light. Each step creaks beneath us. Every board seems to hold its breath. The walls are carved with symbols that look half burned, half scratched, as if something tried to remember the shapes but got them wrong. Jonas lifts his flashlight. The beam cuts through dust so thick it drifts like fog. Pictures hang along the corridor, their glass cracked, their faces scraped away. A family once lived here, but their memories were carved out, erased by whatever came after. The deeper we move, the louder the hum becomes. It's not just the scanners now. It's the house itself, vibrating with a rhythm too slow to be mechanical and too steady to be natural. We reach the kitchen. The table is still set for 4, silverware rusted to the plates. The chairs are overturned, one splintered straight down the middle. In the center of the room, the floor sinks inward and I see it. Bone fused into wood, ribs and femurs woven together like roots. The house didn't bury them, it absorbed them. Jonas whispers that it isn't possible, but the institution stopped defining that word a long time ago. I tell him to keep moving. We climb the staircase. The sound of our boots echoes like whispers repeating themselves. The wallpaper here is patterned with vines that twist the longer you look, edges crawling where they meet the corners. Halfway up, the scanner trembles in my hand. A signal, close, maybe upstairs, maybe everywhere at once. Jonas hesitates. I keep climbing. The hallway at the top stretches farther than the house should allow, lined with closed doors. From somewhere ahead, a rhythmic dripping, then a scrape. At the end of the hall, a faint light spills from an open doorway. Inside, the room is circular and small, lit by candles melted into pools of wax. In the middle stands a table fashioned from warped metal, its surface engraved with the same sigils from the key. On it lies a book, leather cracked, pages glued together with moisture and time. Jonas brushes off the cover. The words appear faintly under the grime. Bestiary of the forgotten. The handwriting inside is frantic, the drawings worse. Creatures made of impossible geometry, faces where faces don't belong, limbs folding back into themselves. One sketch catches my eye. 2 figures joined at the chest, their outlines identical. The caption reads, "They are not born, they are remembered." Jonas says the ink looks fresh. The smell tells me it isn't ink at all, it's blood. The candles flare, every flame bending toward the doorway behind us. I turn. A shadow stands there, tall, angular, skin shimmering like liquid glass stretched over bone. Its head tilts the same way mine does. The scanner wails in my hand, every frequency redlining. Jonas backs into the wall, eyes wide. The mimic steps forward. The floorboards don't creak under its weight. It moves like it's gliding through air thicker than ours. It stops a few feet away, and in a voice that isn't a voice, it breathes my name. Mercer. The word ripples through the house, repeated again and again. Mercer, 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 until it sounds like the building itself is saying it. The lights die. The scanner's red glow flickers weakly between us. I hear Jonas call my name, but the mimic answers first, my own voice spilling from its mouth. Distorted, wet, too human and not human enough. The air vibrates as if the institution's hum has followed us here, stronger now, feeding the thing. I take a step back. The floor shudders. The mimic leans closer, its face inches from mine, skin rippling with every breath I take. Its eyes are mirrors, and for a moment I see not myself, but the glass cube in Containment Hall B, the female mimic pounding at the walls as the red light flashes. The hum builds until it becomes pain. I feel it behind my eyes, in my teeth, in my spine. Then everything stops. The silence that follows is not silence at all. It's a void swallowing sound. Somewhere in it I hear a voice. Not Jonas, not the mimic, something older, whispering through the static of my scanner, repeating the same line I saw in the book. They are not born. They are remembered. The floor beneath me cracks. The last thing I see before the lights return is the mimic collapsing backward into shadow, melting into the wall like smoke absorbed into the wood. The scanner goes dark. The house exhales again. Jonas is gone. His flashlight lies on the floor, beam pointing at the open book. The page has changed. My name is written there now, in the same red ink. The hum returns, steady and deep. Outside, the wind howls, but it isn't the storm anymore. It's the institution listening. Snow presses against the cracked window panes as I stumble back through the hall. Jonas is gone, the echo of his shout already devoured by the storm. The mimic's last whisper still rings in my skull. I follow the faint beam of his flashlight through the open doorway and into the cold night. Outside, the wind screams across the field. Jonas lies half buried in snow, eyes half open, breath fogging weakly. The scanner still glows in his hand, pulsing red in slow rhythm with his heartbeat. I drag him upright, shouting his name, but his pupils don't focus. Behind me, the house moans, the wood flexing like ribs around a living lung. Then silence. No wind, no sound. Only the crunch of footsteps, not mine, moving through the snow toward us. The mimic bursts through the doorway, its shape half human, half echo. Every step it takes drags light from the air. Its skin is stretched thin, faces flickering beneath the surface like reflections in broken glass. It moves faster than anything that size should, arms extending like whips. I pulled Jonas back, hand already on my sidearm. Even if I fired, I know it wouldn't matter. The institution's rule repeats in my head, do not destroy what you do not understand. That rule has kept me alive. Barely. The mimic lunges. For a fraction of a second, I see myself in its eyes, or rather something wearing my expression wrong. Then the world ignites in crimson. A soundless pulse expands from the tree line, washing through the air like the beat of a great heart. The snow freezes mid-fall. The mimic stops, inches from my face, mouth still open in an impossible scream. Time itself bends around the red light. My breath hangs motionless. Figures emerge from the forest, 6, maybe more, moving with mechanical precision. Their suits are matte black, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. Each carries a device shaped like an inverted lantern, glowing with the same red energy. They spread in formation around the mimic, silent, deliberate, synchronized like parts of one mind. A smaller figure follows, the scientist. I recognize her from the briefing screens, containment specialist Reyes. Her white coat flaps in the wind that isn't moving. She kneels beside the creature, checking readings on a wrist-mounted interface. Voice calm, surgical. The mimic trembles against the light, frozen but aware. Its eyes dart wildly inside their glass prison. Reyes signals to one of the operatives. He plants a triangular device into the snow, and a hexagonal field shimmers outward, sealing the area in a humming red dome. Reyes speaks without looking at me. Agent Mercer, step back. Her voice is steady, but her hand trembles when she places the containment sigil against the mimic's chest. The air ripples, the creature convulses, then collapses inward like liquid poured into glass. A translucent cube forms around it, glowing faintly, vibrating with the institution's hum. Jonas groans, stirring beside me. Reyes finally glances my way, eyes sharp and unreadable. You were told not to engage, she says. I tell her we didn't. The thing came to us. She doesn't respond. She presses a command into her wrist pad, and the red light deepens to black. The mimic stops moving. Time resumes. The snow falls again. The operatives lift the containment cube with impossible ease, vanishing back into the trees as if the forest swallows them whole. Reyes stays behind for a moment. She looks at me, then at Jonas, then at the house. There's no anger in her expression, only the weariness of someone who's seen this too many times. She tells me quietly, you're lucky it remembered mercy. Then she turns away and follows the others, her white coat disappearing into the crimson fog. The red dome fades, the hum dies. Jonas leans against me, barely conscious. I look back at the house one last time. Every window glows faintly, as though something inside still watches. Above us, a single drone circles, its lens reflecting the frozen forest. The institution is still listening. It always is. Snow still fell sideways as I started the engine. The Jeep's wipers groaned over the glass, pushing away a thin layer of frozen dust. Jonas sat slumped in the passenger seat, head tilted back, eyes half open but not really seeing anything. The red glow from the containment field had seared a mark into my retina, a pulse I could still see each time I blinked. The radio hissed with static. No station would dare broadcast this far into the snow belt. We drove in silence for a long while, just the sound of chains on ice and the engine's steady grind. Jonas finally spoke, his voice thin, like he was trying not to wake a sleeping god. He asked if I had ever seen anything like that before. I told him no, but that wasn't true. Every mission with the institution felt like déjà vu, like I'd seen these things in dreams long before they happened. We drove through the pines until the forest opened into an empty valley. White on white, sky bleeding into snow. Jonas shivered and rubbed his hands together. He asked what they would do with the creature. I said they'd contain it, study it, lock it away. He laughed and asked what comes after that. I didn't answer. The phone buzzed against the console. I put it on speaker. Reyes's voice cut through the static, sharp, precise, devoid of emotion. She confirmed the containment was successful, and the director was pleased that we hadn't fired. He called our restraint commendable. Jonas snorted. Restraint. That was their word for survival. Reyes told us the director wanted a full report as soon as we returned. Then the line went dead. We didn't speak again until the crimson spires of the Eldritch Institution rose from the fog ahead, a cathedral of concrete and cables. Even from miles away you could feel its hum, like standing next to a massive electrical current. The moment we crossed the outer gate, the scanner on the dash synced automatically, its light pulsing in time with the facility's heartbeat. Inside, everything smelled of ozone and sterile air. Guards lined the corridors, visors blank, weapons holstered but ready. Reyes met us near the airlock and escorted us to the director's chamber. Jonas walked as if the floor might give way beneath him. He was still bleeding from a cut above his eyebrow and hadn't noticed. The director waited in a room lit by a single strip of red light. No windows, no clocks, just that pulse in the walls. He sat behind a metal desk, hands folded. When he spoke, his voice was measured, controlled, but the edges carried something ancient. Something that didn't belong to a man. He said containment was successful. He said the institution was pleased. He said the male and female mimic showed signs of interdimensional resonance, something they'd never recorded before. Jonas asked if that meant they could feel each other. The director looked up at him with eyes that reflected no light and said, "Everything feels something, Agent Hart, even the things we lock away." He asked me what I'd observed. I told him it moved like it already knew me. He nodded slowly, as if he'd been waiting for that answer. Then he told me to submit the recording device Reyes had issued and prepare for reassignment. New mission, higher risk. No details yet. Reyes stood by the door, arms crossed, eyes on the floor. The director dismissed Jonas, but Jonas didn't move. He asked what happens to the creatures after containment. The director smiled thinly and said, "We study them until they teach us what we are." No one spoke after that. He pressed a button on his desk, and the door slid open without a sound. We were done. Outside the chamber, Reyes walked us to the elevator. Through the glass, we could see the containment wing far below, a labyrinth of red cells stretching into darkness. In one of them, the mimic floated inside its cube, faces shifting slowly through every expression I knew. Jonas stared until the doors closed. He whispered, "They're not studying it, Mercer. They're learning how to be it." Back in the Jeep, alone in the underground garage, I sat for a long time listening to the ventilation fans. Somewhere in the dark, I heard that same low hum, steady, alive, waiting. I realized it was coming from beneath the floor. The institution never sleeps, and neither do I anymore. The hum of the facility never stops. Even inside the sleeping wing, the walls breathe with electricity. Red emergency lights blink like slow heartbeats along the corridor. Jonas and I walk in silence, passing the glass-walled cells that house the rest quarters for containment agents. Each pod is a narrow rectangle of light, the door marked only by a number and the agent's blood code. Jonas mutters that he hasn't slept in 2 days. I tell him sleep won't help. The dreams here don't belong to us. Inside my pod, the air smells faintly of ozone and recycled plastic. The mattress is too firm, the sheets too clean. I sit down, boots still on, elbows on my knees. Through the glass, I can see Jonas pacing in the neighboring cell, hands pressed against his temples. He knocks once on the divider and gestures for me to open the comm line. I tap the receiver near my headboard, and his voice fills the small space. He asks if I ever wonder what Reyes and the director are really doing with the creatures. He says he saw one of the cargo lifts heading down below level 9, deeper than any registered containment wing. There were no escort guards, just drones. He swears he heard something inside the crate breathing. I tell him to stop thinking about it. He laughs softly and says, "That's exactly what they want, silence." He says the director talks about learning from the anomalies, But he's starting to think the institution isn't learning from them. It's learning to be them. I look up at the ceiling where faint conduits snake like veins through the metal. For a moment, I imagine blood pulsing through them. Jonas asks why I keep taking missions. I tell him it's because the world outside doesn't make sense anymore, because the institution at least pretends to. He says he's thinking about leaving. I remind him the director already told him what happens to those who leave. The line goes quiet. Then I hear him whisper, "What if we're already part of it, Mercer? What if that thing, the mimic, didn't copy us? What if we're the copies?" The comm clicks dead. The hum in the walls grows louder. For a moment, I think I hear breathing. Not mine, not Jonas's. Something deeper, syncing with the rhythm of the lights. I close my eyes and try to count the pulses until they blend into one long tone. Sleep never comes. You've been listening to Synthetic Dopamine, the Eldritch Institution, File 001, The Mimic. This concludes today's classified recording. The next episode will open another file, another secret buried beneath the institution. Until then, remember, containment precedes understanding.